My parents divorced when I was about 7, because my dad had admitted to having an affair. My mom and I moved out of our house and into an apartment, while my dad immediately moved his mistress into our house, because she was pregnant with my twin brothers. My mom was devastated, but she quickly picked herself up for us. She returned to school, and as a result, she continued climbing up in her career. My mom adjusted better to going from a double-income household to a single income. She could contribute a substantial amount of money to my college fund. On the other hand, my dad had a harder time as he now had to support a family of 4, sometimes 5, on a single income, as his wife was a stay-at-home mom. My dad didn't have much disposable income, and so didn't contribute as much to the fund. I'll finish school soon and have a good chance of getting into my first college choice. Unfortunately, my brother, tween, was diagnosed with a kidney disease that has progressed to where he needs dialysis. My dad is drowning in medical debt, so my mom agreed he no longer needed to pay child support. The specialist suggested a different treatment for my brother, as most other treatments didn't help or stopped working, and they're running out of options, short of a transplant, not doable now. The treatment is not covered by insurance and costs a lot. My dad can't take out a loan due to debt. Dad and his wife sat me down when I was over, and asked me if I would let them borrow my college fund to pay off my brother's treatment. They offered to pay the money back, but I knew they wouldn't be able to. I really don't want to give them the money, because I know if I don't get any scholarships, I wouldn't be able to go to the college I want to, without going into debt myself. My future would be at risk, and I know my dad wouldn't help if I needed it. In addition, the money technically belongs to my mom. I can't just give it away, and I know she would refuse to give them the money. My dad and his wife are furious at both my mom and me, and are trying to guilt me into it. I do feel terrible for my little brother. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. The money isn't yours, firstly. It was allocated by your mother for a specific thing. It was not meant to pay for her ex-husband's kids' treatments. They call it a loan, but it's not. It will never be repaid, and your mom will be out of thousands of dollars of her hard-earned money. And it was grossly inappropriate for your father to ask for your money. They need to come up with other sources, such as holding fundraisers, car washes, yard sales, GoFundMe, and barbecues do well in my area. Or a stepmom needs to work after dad is off work so he can do childcare. Or a dad needs a second job. They can also look into government aid or medical studies where treatment would be covered. Tell your mom you shouldn't be put in this situation. OP, you have a lovely, understanding, and clear-eyed view of this. He'd never repay you, and you'd be stuck under college debt for 20 years. Ask your mom to be the bad guy. She can have her divorce attorney send a letter telling him the funds are hers to control, and she's not giving up years of her savings for him and his affair partner's expenses. She can also tell him that she'll take him to court to end his custody if he keeps trying to financially abuse a person your age. That's a bit of a feint since you could choose to go no contact at any point, but it might shock him out of his behavior. OP, you need more facts before you make any decision. First, all dialysis in the United States is paid for by Medicaid, even if someone is wealthy. A treatment not covered at all by insurance? That sounds kind of suspect. I would want to speak to the physicians directly. If you're adult enough to be expected to fund this treatment, you're adult enough to get the facts directly. I'm sorry for your sibling, but this is not your problem. This is a problem of your parents' making. Maybe this kid's mom ought to go get a job. Thank you. The twins are homeschooled due to their brother's compromised immune system, so dad's wife actually cannot get a full-time job, and she's also a full-time caretaker for my brother. I've spoken to my mom over the phone after this happened. She calmed me down and told me she would take care of it. I'm 20 and live with my 28-year-old sister. I've been living with her since I was 16. When I turned 18, she told me I'd have to start contributing to her rent and bills to continue living with her. I told her that if she wanted me to pay any bills in the house, I would no longer watch her 2 children, preschooler and toddler, for free, and she'd have to pay me for the childcare. She works a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and I watch her kids for her while she's gone. I'm in university and take classes online, so it's easy to multitask. Plus, her 4-year-old is in preschool half-day, and I'm the one that picks her up and drops her off. Because of my contributions, I expect to be treated like a roommate in her apartment. I may not pay any rent, but that doesn't mean I'm not contributing to the household regarding childcare. She cannot afford daycare. The ones in our area charge around $2,000 for 2 children every month. She doesn't even pay that in rent. She still chastises me for certain things, like not paying for food or my phone bill. I also can barely have a social life or even a weekend job because I'm always expected to watch her kids so I can live with her rent-free, and she often uses that to her own advantage. And during weekends, doesn't come home at all. I'm sick of it and was ranting to a friend from school about it. She told me that one of her roommates was moving out at the end of this month to return to her home state after a horrible family tragedy. This roommate in particular had paid rent up front for the entire lease next 3 months, so she would be cool with having me in that room for free until the lease ends so I can get back on my feet and land a job that I can pay the rent for the new one. I couldn't pass up on this offer that I knew I would never get again, so I made the choice to move out. I wanted to tell my sister since it was her birthday weekend and I knew she had plans and wasn't planning to come home and I was going to watch her kids for her as a final goodbye. She returned from her trip yesterday and I finally set her down and told her I was moving out next week. She started crying, asking how I could do this to her, knowing that she can't afford childcare and doesn't qualify for assistance and that she'll have to come up with another form of childcare and must drive an hour to take her kids to our grandparents. So that they can watch them, and that would be a huge inconvenience to her, and then she doesn't know if she can handle both the financial responsibilities of rent and daycare and she'll probably have to move out and I'm basically ruining her life that she let me live with her rent-free in that. I'm just now leaving her and her kids high and dry and I'm a huge idiot. Not the idiot. You were watching her kids full-time, which she knows how much that is. That's certainly not rent-free. How does she expect you to earn money to pay rent if you're already going to college and doing 40 hours of childcare? That doesn't even make sense. She'll figure it out. It sounds like it's time for you to move on. Being her 40+ hours a week babysitter doesn't sound like much of a life. Not just the entire work week, but sometimes 24/7 on weekends. Sis is in for a rude awakening and she needs it. Meanwhile, you deserve a chance to live your life, work to pay your own bills and finally enjoy having free time on your days off from work like anyone else, including your sister. She will have to drive the kids. Boo-hoo. Ask to the people complaining about your not giving notice. Notice is not the issue. The sister doesn't have the money. Sister could always stop wasting money with her regular outings and weekend vanishings too. Your sister had a deal others would die for. But as with the goose that laid the golden egg, she went and wrecked it out of greed. My wife, 40, and I, 38 male, have been married for 10 years and have 3 kids together, tween and younger. My wife also has a 19-year-old son from a previous relationship. My stepson and I have a pretty good relationship. His dad is and always has been president his life. But my stepson currently lives with my wife and I. He dropped out of college after 1 semester due to mental health issues. He struggled with anxiety and depression for 3 to 4 years and was doing better before leaving for college. But I think being on his own for the first time triggered some setbacks. And he struggled a lot before deciding to come home. He works part-time but spends almost every other waking moment in his room. We worked with his dad ever since he started showing signs of mental illness. Therapy, counseling, working with doctors, multiple drug combinations, etc. For probably 18 to 24 months, pretty much all of our parental attention was focused on him and his issues because they were affecting everything and everyone in our family. When he was away at college, I finally felt like I could be a present and active father to my 3 other kids. I hate to put it this way, but I really felt like I was trying to make up for lost time. I also finally felt joy from parenting again, which hurts to say. But everything with my stepson was so stressful and progress was so slow. I was actually watching my kids grow up instead of missing out on everything. Now that my stepson is living at home with us again, I've tried really hard not to stray away from focusing my time and energy on my younger kids. I've tried to include my stepson in any outings or activities. But the few times he's decided to join us, it's been noticeably less enjoyable for everyone. I don't like saying it, but he can be a joy suck. He tends not to allow anyone else to enjoy something if he isn't. So, I pretty much stopped inviting him along to things. He and my wife have noticed, and my wife called me out on it recently. She told me that he feels left out and wants to be included more. I reminded her of how he behaves when he's out with the family and told her that unless he changes his behavior, I'm not going to allow him to ruin things for our younger kids. She told me that he needs a strong father figure to help him through these hard times. And I reminded her that he has a father who can fill that role, but he doesn't want to live with him because his dad would require him to work full-time and contribute to the household as an adult, something my wife doesn't want to do. I told her that I was through letting him suck all of the time away from our younger kids, and I would continue to prioritize them over him. I told her that I would never ask him to leave, but that he's legally an adult, and I have 3 young kids who require my time more than he does. She told me his dad would require him to work full-time and contribute to the household as an adult, something my wife doesn't want him to do. Holy cow, he should be with his bio dad. It sounds like structure and purpose will do a million times more than indulging him. Listen to what your therapist says, obviously, but I can't imagine they would disagree. OP, you are not the idiot. Yeah, it seems like Dad and OP are the only ones trying to do right by him. OP's wife needs to let her kid become a functional adult, and the only way that happens is by doing what Bio Dad suggests, finding a stable job and contributing to the household. I'd imagine most therapists would also agree with that suggestion, unless the serious condition wouldn't allow him to work. This is a problem of your wife's making. She and her son must find a solution and stop expecting the world to revolve around him. Lots of people struggle with mental health, including me. Most of us find ways to cope and live our lives in a more or less productive manner. I have all the sympathy and patience for people who try, and admiration and respect for those who try, fail, and try again. I have none for those who refuse to try and those who enable them. My husband, myself, and our 2 sons visited sister-in-law for 4 nights. We do this once a year. We live in separate states and usually other family members come as well. But this year, it's just us. I'm 32 weeks pregnant, so the travel was rough on me anyway. We drove because I can't fly and it's a 21-hour drive. Well, sister-in-law had to work for 3 of the days that we were there. And on those days, she would come home at 4 p.m., look at me, and say, "So, what are you cooking tonight?" The first 2 times she said it, I just laughed it off and so did she. So, I thought she was joking, but apparently she wasn't. We purchased food every time we came here as well. So, we spent $300 on food for our stay. And for context, the guys were out fishing and stuff, so they weren't home to cook. Or my husband absolutely would have. He loves grilling. The 3rd time she asked, I didn't say anything or laugh because it was getting old. But she then looked at me and said, "It's the least you can do considering I worked all day while you sat here doing nothing." This is utter BS because I was left at the house with her kids and my kids all day. Because this was a shift she picked up after we got here. And her husband and my husband had already left for the day before she took off for her random shift that she didn't tell anyone about. I tell her at this point that I'd taken care of 7 kids all day at 32 weeks pregnant when I'm supposed to be a guest in her home and shouldn't be made to do anything anyways. I made this comment because she asked me to do a load of her laundry and do up the dishes when she was at work. Which I did, no question. She just got irritated with me and walked off mumbling under her breath. So I took my kids and left to go get takeout for us and texted my husband giving him the rundown. He immediately returned home and played mediator but told his sister that she shouldn't have expected me to pick up house chores, babysit and cook dinner when I was pregnant and a guest here. We left a day early but people are saying I'm ridiculous because it wasn't a big deal and that I should have just cooked for the 11 people in the house because sister-in-law worked. Edit. The men fish every day we're here. When they get home and after we eat around 4 p.m. All the ladies take off and do whatever they want while the men stay home with the kids and have fires and s'mores, movies, snacks and bedtime around 10 to 11 depending on the activity that night. It's equally split. Also, I have 2 kids. She has 5. I don't need to slow down on having kids because 7 for one person is too much. Sister-in-law picked up these shifts. She was supposed to have the entire 4 days off. She never ran it by anyone until after the guys had already left for the day. And generally speaking, the guys don't have service where they go fishing. So, I had already cooked for 8 people, all the kids and myself twice during those 3 days and did laundry and dishes more than enough for a guest invited to your home under the false pretense of a vacation. The rest of the family, mother-in-law and my other sister-in-law were supposed to attend but mother-in-law fell ill with a nasty sinus cold and stayed home. And my other sister-in-law tended to her. We make this trip every year and I generally enjoy coming here. So, I decided to come down this way. My kids love seeing their cousins and my brother-in-law is my husband's best friend. So, I didn't want to damper the mood just because I'm pregnant. You had my not the idiot and drove 21 hours to babysit 7 kids while pregnant. Helping out when you're a guest is reasonable. Being the housekeeper/nanny when you're a guest isn't reasonable. Maybe sister-in-law needs help in the house or an escape and saw you as her solution. Doesn't matter. She didn't ask and you didn't offer. LOL to the people saying you're ridiculous and it wasn't a big deal. Excuse me? Sister-in-law was a huge idiot. It's also extremely rude to pick up extra work shifts while you have a guest visiting who drove 21 hours to visit and expect them to babysit their kids plus cook and clean. What kind of BS is that? Also, to only reveal that she's leaving after the men have left for the day and the belief that the vacation is going to plan and their wives are looking after the kids together is a spiteful move. Honestly, I take this as a sign that she isn't really happy about hosting you, to be honest. For future visits, stay somewhere else and coordinate the things you do together. You are the idiot, but especially the 2 husbands, and you don't have to make excuses for 2 grown men who are fathers. S'mores and movies aren't wrangling. It's fun, especially compared to laundry and real cooking with cleanup involved. Why did you guys decide to make this trip at this time? Sounds like a really bad idea in the first place. Your sister-in-law is not a big fan of this yearly tradition, having your family, your mother-in-law and your additional sister-in-law stay at your house for a week and chose not to work to have some time for herself. I'm more sympathetic to your sister-in-law here. She's not getting any vacation at all and you're putting all the blame on her, not the other. Our daughter has passed away. In a somber voice, my mother conveyed this to my husband over the phone. What? Our daughter? You mean, Madison? Yes, my daughter. Your wife, Madison? She's gone. Even over the phone, I could tell that my husband was in a state of shock. My husband's actions towards me had been incredibly cruel. Now is the time for him to face the consequences. My name is Madison, a 35-year-old housewife. I was raised with my younger sister under the care of our father, who worked as a bus driver, and our stay-at-home mother. My father was always kind, and my mother had a gentle personality. So our family relationships were good. My responsible younger sister is still single and focused on her career. Jacob, my husband, and I met at work and fell in love. He was tall, handsome, and kind, making him quite popular among our colleagues. As a plain and timid person, it didn't take long for me to fall for him. When he approached me, according to him, he preferred someone with a good personality rather than someone glamorous. Soon after, we got married, and I became a housewife to support my husband. We were blessed with a daughter named Lily soon after. With the financial assistance from my parents, we were able to build a nice house. I should have been at the height of happiness. That is, until I discovered my husband's true nature. After our daughter was born, my husband's attitude gradually became more arrogant. First, he stopped calling me by my name. Hey. Whenever he had something to say, he would address me like this. After giving birth, I struggled to lose weight, and my husband started mocking me. Aren't you ashamed of having that kind of figure? You chubby old lady. Around this time, my husband started coming home late at night or early in the morning. I started noticing a scent of perfume on his suit. Since it became a daily occurrence, I finally confronted my husband about it. Taking care of a child is tough for me, too. Instead of going out drinking every day, could you spend more time with our child? Then my husband suddenly became angry and threw a chair at me. I don't drink because I like it. It's part of my job. Why don't you understand? You fat slob. You're the one who has an easy life, doing the same things every day at home. If you have complaints, go on at work. But you can't, can you? My husband shouted at me in a loud voice. After that, I became too afraid to say anything that would anger my husband. At the same time, our monthly living expenses were reduced to only $500. You're just a bored housewife, right? Figure out managing everything with this, okay? Naturally, I couldn't sustain our living with just that. So I started dipping into my savings from when I was single to make ends meet. My life was becoming more difficult day by day. However, when I thought about my younger daughter, I couldn't bring myself to leave the house. But the truth was that I couldn't ignore the pressing need for a solution. Utilizing my design skills from my previous job, I secretly started doing freelance work from home. Before I knew it, I was earning a salary comparable to my husband's. With the financial issues resolved, several years had passed without us divorcing. It was on a certain holiday when Lily turned 3 years old. My husband's phone started ringing while he was in the bath. Unusually, he had left it out on the desk. I ignored it at first, but it kept ringing persistently. So I quietly peeked and saw a woman's name on the screen. I realized that my husband had another woman. When my husband came out of the bath, I calmly told him, "Your phone was ringing." I could tell that my husband's expression changed. "Did you look at my phone?" "Huh?" "No, I didn't." I lied to my husband as naturally as possible. In response, my husband entered the bedroom with a disgruntled expression. Unconsciously, tears started streaming down my face. I thought to myself, I can't let it end like this. I started secretly recording conversations with my husband using an IC recorder during this time. Furthermore, I hired a private investigator and obtained solid evidence of his infidelity. When our daughter turned 5 years old, the decisive event finally happened. Even now, thinking about it terrifies me. There was an abnormal increase in days when my husband wouldn't come home. He would always claim it was due to business trips. But as someone who worked in the same company, I knew there were no such business trips in his department. What an insult. I had reached my limit with him. Going to see his affair partner even while lying with a lie that I could easily see through. During this time, I seriously contemplated divorce. That morning, my husband suddenly announced while coming down the stairs that he had to go on a business trip. Since there wouldn't be any decent meals at home, I might as well eat something good on my business trip. With his snide remark, I finally exploded with anger. What did you say? What do you mean there won't be any decent meals? Stop joking. I make dinner every day, even though you rarely bother to eat it. And where do you go while claiming it's a business trip? I have the evidence that you The moment I said that, my husband flew into a rage. Shut up. Stop saying unnecessary things. He said that and pushed me forcefully. My husband looked down at me, sprawled on the floor, and I easily left the house. I was surprised by the sudden turn of events as my head hit the floor. However, shortly after, my consciousness started fading little by little, and everything before me turned completely dark. When I regained awareness, I found myself on a hospital bed. My daughter and parents were looking at me with worried expressions. Mommy, are you okay? Lily, did you help me, honey? As I tried to hastily get up, pain shot through my entire body, according to my parents. Miraculously, the injuries were not severe, and they said I could be discharged the same day. Yeah, I called Daddy because Mommy got hurt. I told Daddy to come back, but Daddy said he couldn't because of work. So, I called Grandma. Taking over for our tearful daughter, my mother continued. So, I called the ambulance. I was really scared, you know. What happened, Madison? I asked the nurse to take my daughter outside the hospital room. Then I confided my parents about the countless cruel things I had endured from my husband. Both of them listened subtly, and then my father spoke. I see. You don't have to endure anymore. Come back home. And we need to settle things with him properly. By revealing everything to my parents, I finally made up my mind to put an end to this marriage. Our family held a meeting right there, and decided to launch a big act of litigation against my husband. The next day, my husband called my cell phone. My mother answered the call. Our daughter has passed away. My mother delivered the news to my husband in a solemn voice. The phone was on speaker mode. Of course. I was also recording the conversation. What? Our daughter, you mean Madison? Yes, my daughter. Your wife, Madison. She's gone. I could sense my husband's panic even through the phone. My mother continued to pile on him. It seems that she fell and hit her head hard on the floor. Do you have any idea what could have caused it? No. Then my husband, with a feigned voice of tears, said, she was as cheerful as usual this morning. Why did this happen? I suppressed the urge to scream. You're lying, bitch. Anyway, where are you? My mother interrogated my husband with anger. Well, you see, I'm currently on a business trip. It will take me half a day to get back home. Come back immediately, then. We're going home with our daughter now. My mother hung up the phone after saying that. We hurriedly made our way back home. At the same time, I quickly gathered the evidence of his past infidelity, including the voice recorder, and consulted with a lawyer. While I was at it, I checked our bank accounts and life insurance policies and confirmed that my husband hadn't made any changes yet. Preparing for a confrontation with my husband, I evacuated my daughter to my sister's house and waited for my husband's return with my parents. After a while, my husband arrived home. What? Who is she? Suddenly, I widened my eyes in disbelief. To my astonishment, my husband returned home accompanied by another woman. He, who had been informed of my death, was left speechless by the fact that I was still alive. Madison? You're alive? Why? More importantly, who is that person? What? You. You can't be serious. Did you deceive me? My husband's voice was filled with shock. Not as much as you did. So, who is that person? Weren't you all supposed to be at your family home? What are you talking about? This is my home, isn't it? Forget about that for now. Who is that person? No, it's not like that. This is someone from a business deal. Just as my husband started to explain, I laid out the evidence of his affair that I had obtained through a private investigator on the table. According to my investigation, this person seems to be a woman in these photos. What is this? They are probably fake photos or something. Fake, you say? Well, why don't you take a look at the dates on the photos? And this is what I wrote in my diary. My husband is on a business trip. When I called the company, they said he took paid leave. Who was deceiving whom? You have some nerves, ain't that? Then why is she here today? All of the haze. Well, there was a matter that needed attention. Just as my husband was about to respond, the woman interrupted. I'm Anna. I've been dating Jacob with the intention of getting married. Are you Jacob's older sister? What? His sister? I'm Jacob's wife. Surprised by my response, she spoke in a shocked voice. Wife. Jacob told me that he lives with his sister. What are you talking about? I'm his wife. As I responded with disbelief, my husband started to look frightened. However, even in this situation, my husband stumbled and attempted a feeble counterattack. Well, there's a reason for this. I'll explain later. I promise. It seemed like she understood the situation by now. Jacob, you told me that your sister has passed away, didn't you? What does it mean that you have a wife? She confronted my husband fiercely. I also immediately confronted my husband. For these past few years, you've been cheating on me behind my back. And you even pushed me and caused me injury. Huh? Jacob? Did you really do such a terrible thing to your wife? Unbelievable. So the same thing could happen to me too, right? Anna said with a half-exasperated expression. True. I love you. I really do. Love her? So that means you admit to cheating on me, right? I joined in the confrontation. No, it's just that. So this is what they call a chaotic situation. My husband panicked, but I remained calm. My parents were looking at my husband with even colder and more distant gazes. There was not a trace of love left for him within me. Divorce. Let's end this and go our separate ways. I'll also break up with him. Simultaneously, Anna and I discarded my husband on the spot. Just pushing me alone is already a serious crime. Furthermore, there is evidence of your infidelity. So be prepared for a huge amount of compensation. To think you were a married man. I truly despise you from the bottom of my heart. I also demand a suitable apology from you. So be prepared for that. Anna was also furious and directed her anger towards my husband. In response, my husband brazenly started making desperate excuses. It's not my fault that medicine fell on the floor. She tripped on her own. Do you have any evidence that I pushed her? Is there anything to prove it? In disbelief at my husband's attitude, I took out an IC recorder. It contained a vivid recording of a sound when he pushed me. In addition, all the past awful remarks he made towards me are perfectly recorded here. There's no escaping from it anymore. You idiot. Furthermore, Anna added. I have email evidence as well. It proves that we met at a matchmaking party. And that he referred to you as his sister. Unable to make any more excuses, my husband finally lost his temper. Shut up, you fat cow. If you were gone, I was planning to be with Anna using your life insurance. She is the daughter of an executive from a business partner. If we got married, my promotion was guaranteed. It's all your fault, Madison. My husband started throwing whatever was within reach at me and even attempted to grab me. At that moment, my father swiftly restrained him in a stranglehold. My father is skilled in judo. Then, with my husband immobilized, Anna delivered a double slap to his face. This one is for me, and this one is for Madison. Saying so, she ended with a powerful knee kick to his sensitive area. As he writhed in agony, I whispered quietly to him. Regarding the life insurance, my parents are beneficiaries, considering the worst-case scenario. Either way, he won't get any money from me. By the way, do you remember who the house is registered to? My parents put money into this house, so it's under their name. If you understand, then leave quickly, okay? Anna added fuel to the fire. So, you're dating me because I'm the daughter of an executive. It's a shame things didn't go as you planned. Goodbye. After a while, the divorce with my husband was finalized. I received all the compensation I could get. Instead of my ex-husband leaving, I ended up living with my parents. Subsequently, my husband's relationship with Anna became known at his company, and he was demoted. Naturally, her parents were furious, and they broke up as well. Furthermore, even at his new position, my ex-husband couldn't get along with colleagues and ended up resigning. Anna also demanded compensation, and his retirement funds were nearly depleted. Currently, my ex-husband is in the process of job hunting, unaware of all this. Anna and her parents discussed it, and she ended up apologized to me with a letter and even paid damages. Seeing Anna crying and apologizing to me, even though she wasn't at fault, I honestly felt sorry for her. By the way, she soon met someone through a matchmaking and got married to a genuinely single and sincere man. I was relieved to hear that she was able to marry successfully. As for me, my freelance design work from home was going well, and I succeeded in starting my own company. Initially, it was a small company with a few employees, but our performance steadily grew. Recently, the number of employees has increased significantly, and we plan to buy a building next year to expand the company. As for my daughter, she didn't feel lonely even after her father left. In fact, she strongly recognized him as a bad person who didn't come to help when mommy got hurt and never wanted to see him again. In our peaceful and harmonious days without fights, my daughter seems to be growing happily. The other day, filled with gratitude, I invited my parents and sister on a family trip. Not only we could relax at a leisurely resort, but we also found financial stability and peace of mind. I genuinely felt happy. "Hey mommy, I want a cat," my daughter said while eating a meal during our trip. "A cat? That sounds nice. Well, then let's go find a partner for you, Lily." "Oh, a cat. We love cats too. I wonder what kind of cat would be good." A few weeks after that conversation, a new member joined our family. It was a small and mischievous, adorable kitten. I can still hear my daughter's lively voice playing with the kitten today. After that, more good news followed as my sister got married. She finally met a kind and successful businessman. Moreover, she is expecting a baby. So our home will become even more lively from now on. May these happy days continue for as long. I had my son way too young with my then boyfriend. We split up when he moved away for college and became an absent father when he returned for the summers. He became more active when he moved back after graduating, and we started doing 50-50 custody. I was 24 then and went to community college and got into sonography school, and I'm now an obstetric sonographer. During that time, it came out that my ex had never graduated and was in enormous debt from gambling during his time away. It explains why, with a full-ride scholarship and a degree in a high-paying field, he was working at the mall. Once I got a job, I was able to upgrade my standard of living and provide a better life for me and my son. He's now nearly adult and entering senior year soon, and I want him to get a lovely gift to celebrate his birthday this summer. I asked him earlier this year when we talked about cars, what car he would want, and he said a 2023 Camry. While we're financially well off and don't struggle, I know he thinks buying a car is out of our budget, so he didn't suspect a thing. Here's the issue: I was speaking to my ex's sister, whom I am semi-close to, and I brought up the idea to her. She seemed excited, but then said I shouldn't. She said it makes her brother look bad since he doesn't have a car, and it would crush him to know that his son has a brand new paid-off car while he barely scrapes by. I told her that's not my issue and that it's not my fault he doesn't have his life together. He's 33 years old and still lives at home, doesn't have a car, and constantly switches retail jobs after spending weeks stretching out and watching orientation videos as long as he can. My son told me he recently spent almost 2 months watching Home Depot orientation videos and then quitting the first week on the floor. He doesn't want to work hard, so why should I feel bad? After a few days, she calls me and says she has an amazing compromise. She told my ex that I had planned to buy a special gift for my son this summer and asked if he was willing to pitch in. He offered $80, and she's going to add another $80 for a total of $160. Then we could tell our son we bought it together and he feels like his dad pitched in. This is for a $34,000 car. I told her no thanks, I have it covered, and she got upset and said that this could bring my son closer to his father, since they don't have much of a relationship, and not to be a selfish idiot. Ever since I said no, she called me twice, calling me an idiot and saying I should either let him chip in or not buy it at all. Am I the idiot? Ha ha ha, is she kidding? Not the idiot. So, she doesn't want her brother to feel bad that his son has a car and he doesn't? OMG, they need to grow up. He does not work to improve his life, it sounds like, and that's not for you or your son to feel bad about. And now they want to chip in a couple of $100 on a $34,000 car and try to make it sound like they bought it too? Please, your son is smart enough, he would see through that anyway. Also, if he isn't close to his son, that sounds like that's on him, as well. Good for you for working hard to give him a good life, you don't owe them anything. Yeah, $160, how generous of them. Has this man even paid child support all these years? Oh, he was just busy gambling. Dad can suck it up and reap what he's sown. His sister's crossing a major line, thinking that $160 is enough. If it was a difference of even $1,000 or $2,000, I'd maybe entertain it. But what they're proposing is insulting to the work you've put in. LMFAO, $80, we got a big spender for an ex. The gift that you worked hard for, not ex, not his sister, it's your moment with your son. If dad and sister-in-law want a moment, well, they can work for it, as you did. I say again, your son is a smart kid, he sees your ex lacking, he's not gonna believe for a minute that your ex significantly contributed to the car. Here's the other thing, say son believes ex paid for half, the ex could turn around and guilt the son into lending him the car, because he sacrificed so much to help pay for it. Go with the truth, it's the best option in the long run. Congratulations on your son's graduation, and tell your ex to buy some fuzzy dice or whatever, but remind your ex that these are a prop and he can't gamble with them. My wife is flying to see family for just 4 quick days this weekend, and the airport is 1 hour away. She returns back and lands at 10:30 a.m. on Independence Day. We have kids, and I want to take them to our town's wet parade and fun activities that morning for the celebration. We didn't make part of last year's celebration, and I was looking forward to this year's. She asked me to drop her at the airport. Initially I was all for it, but then learning about her return time, this is where the disagreement began. Our family car is in the shop, but we have a loaner from the dealer. I asked her to think about driving herself, so we could celebrate the festivities, and she instantly got mad. That'll cost us hundreds more dollars, parking is $8 a day. The loaner isn't ours, what if it sells while I'm away? Then they wait. Why can't you support me through this and not be selfish? Who's selfish here? The festivities go on all day. I'm only asking for 2 hours, 9 to 3 p.m. is the duration of the festivities. These were some of the statements immediately made. She even said, my dad wouldn't hesitate to support his wife. I think her dad would shrug and say, just drive yourself. Am I the idiot, because I want to take the kids to our town's 4th of July celebrations, and would prefer my wife drive herself to and from the airport? Not the idiot. Airport pickup and drop-off is a luxury, either my wife and I offer the other, if the stars align just right, otherwise we hire a cab. Loaners don't sell while they're being loaned. That's not how the process works. Parking wouldn't be hundreds of dollars, it would be $32. Having said that, you could pick her up by 11, be home by noon, and still attend the festivities for 3 hours, in ideal conditions. Barring any flight delays, traffic jams, or small kids' meltdowns, there are a ton of things that can go wrong, especially with the kids in the car. Anyone with children knows that a 2-hour round trip on Google Maps doesn't equate to a 2-hour round trip in reality. It's unreasonable for the wife to make that demand, when she can just drive herself, with much less of an imposition on her time than it would be on his. I agree with every word. OP isn't some deadbeat dad, wanting to hang out with his buddies on the 4th. He wants to take the kids to a kid-centric event. I'm a mom, and if I were in this situation, I'd tell my husband, have fun, I'll try to join you when I get home. In my honest opinion, the wife's being extremely selfish and not thinking of her kids, or her husband. The wife needs to suck it up and drive herself. Don't back down, OP, you're the only one in this situation thinking of the kids. Take them to the parade, and have a great time. This is so stupid. My girlfriend thinks I'm an idiot, so I want some second opinions. We're both quite serious tea drinkers, being from the UK, at least 3 cups a day. I have mine with 1 spoon of sugar, she has no sugar. We've been dating for a year now. In the first month of dating, things were great, and she made my tea properly. Then she slowly started to forget, and made us both cups with no sugar. I gently reminded her that I like it with 1 sugar, but she wouldn't remember, and kept making me non-sweet tea. So I decided to just make both of our teas going forward throughout the day to save the hassle. However, lately, I've been tired of having to make all this tea, and I asked her if she could make me a cup once in a while. I don't think it's fair that I make her nice teas, and she can't return the favor. Today she made me tea with no sugar, once again, and I got fed up and asked her why she doesn't add sugar to mine. It feels deliberate, to which she told me she forgets, and that's just how she does it, and I can add my own sugar after. So I said that wasn't the point, and moving forward, until she can make my tea nicely, and take my taste into account, I will no longer be making her tea. I remember her little dietary quirks, and it just feels off that she won't remember this for me. She says it's stupid for me to go on strike about making her tea, and I'm weaponizing it, and it takes 2 minutes. However, I'm tired of making her perfect tea, while she doesn't even put any effort into mine. Am I the idiot? People are gonna get onto you with, it's just sugar, but I get your point. It's the effort. You take the time to remember what she likes, and do that if you're making for both of you, and she doesn't return the favor. It feels lopsided to you, hence the question, you are not the idiot. Exactly, they've been dating for a year now. It's not like it's some complicated Starbucks order. It's 1 spoon of sugar. I'd honestly start making the tea, but putting 1 sugar in her tea as well. If she needs help remembering your preference for something as simple as tea, why should you go to the trouble of it? It's a simple lack of respect. If he wasn't British, I would have suggested that as well, but he's probably too darn polite for stooping to the level the rest of the world would applaud, Canadians probably being the exception. As an American who used to drink sweet tea, I cannot relate. LOL, we drink tea syrup in this area. No sugar? Get out, OP. You can have a tea war if you like. But the real question here is a fairly fundamental relationship question. Do you want to remain in a relationship with this person? My partner and I are typical sleep-deprived parents of 3 children, ages toddler to infant. I'm a stay-at-home mom while my partner commutes for work, and depending on which site he's at, can be on the road for more than 6 hours a day. When necessary, he'll get a hotel room closer to the job site. Getting up with the children during the night has always been my responsibility. The logic behind this is that his sleep should be the priority due to the dangers of driving while drowsy. I've always accepted this without complaint. However, since the birth of our youngest, my partner's begun to accuse me of intentionally disrupting his sleep if the baby wakes him up at night. This past week, my partner had a few long days and was gone from early Wednesday morning until late Friday night. Please, no judgment, but I was so busy, exhausted, and overwhelmed during that time that I didn't get the opportunity to shower. I felt disgusting. It took ages for the children to fall asleep with the excitement of Daddy being home. But around midnight Friday night, I finally got the opportunity to treat myself to a shower. I hoped the baby would stay asleep, but if he didn't, there was finally another adult to cover for me. And as the next day was Saturday, there was no commute to worry about. Well, of course the baby woke up, and my partner was absolutely livid. I was accused of being selfish, vindictive, unsupportive, and using the baby as a weapon to punish my partner for getting more sleep than me. I was called every curse word in the book, and when I asked why my partner at no point tried to pick up or soothe the baby, I was told that he doesn't have tits to put the baby back to sleep. So, what would be the point? At first, I was equally angry at my partner for choosing to lash out at me instead of caring for the baby. However, now that I've calmed down, I've started worrying that I was wrong. While my partner's accusations were wildly off base, I may have been an idiot to just assume it would be okay for the baby to wake him, especially when the baby's nighttime care has historically been my responsibility. So, am I the idiot for assuming it would be okay to let the baby wake up my partner because I desperately needed a shower? Not the idiot. Even though you're a stay-at-home mom, that doesn't mean you're the only one with parental responsibilities. Letting your partner sleep while you care for the baby at night so he's not driving drowsy is a fine concept, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have to do anything ever at nighttime. And the fact that it was a night when he didn't have to drive the next day is the icing on the cake. Taking a shower for the first time in several days while there's another adult around is not a selfish act or weaponizing your baby. It's basic human hygiene that you shouldn't have to apologize for. Tell your partner it's time to start being a parent. How would he do this without tits? It's common knowledge that women change diapers with their tits. I'd go so far as to call it weaponized incompetence. Sure, he doesn't have breasts, but sticking the baby on the boob isn't the only way to get them back to sleep. And even if it was, does he still not have a responsibility to at least comfort his child until the mom returns to feed the baby? Come on now, stop acting like you're helpless in this situation. I bet he got perfect long sleep time, Wednesday and Thursday nights away, while you were doing 100% of childcare and couldn't even get a shower for yourself. You've given him way too much of a break on care duties if he doesn't even know how to pick up his baby to soothe it. Girl, stop allowing this person to procreate using your uterus. Please stop. That level of aggression would be an absolute deal breaker for me. This happened over a year ago, but this situation has still affected my family and my mom won't stop getting on my husband's and mine, case even now. My father had diabetes and his health was deteriorating fast. He was in the hospital and then got out. After he got out, he was weak and was trying to rest at home. I come from a big family with a lot of siblings. One of my sisters travels all through Europe and is frequently moving. I'm in the US and I haven't been back to Europe in over a decade, but I talk a lot on the phone with them. We'll call my sister Anna. Anna suddenly moved into my parents' house with her husband and 8 children for an unknown period of time and for reasons no one knows. Well, she had nowhere else to go, apparently. My mom is the closest with her and has always been sympathetic towards her, so she's fine with her being there. My dad was exhausted, coming home from the hospital just a day or two ago. My husband was talking to him on the phone and heard all these kids screaming and making noises. He asked if everything's okay. My father just said he's tired, overwhelmed, can't take it anymore and just wants to rest. My dad talks to my brother who lives there and talks about the environment in the house. My brother said it was a disaster and pretty noisy since the kids were running everywhere. My mom, however, said that it's not a big deal and not that noisy. Well, we all just had a feeling my dad was going to die any day now, and these were his last months alive. My husband and I felt bad for my dad and thought he deserved peace in his last moments. My husband asked to speak to my mother and she said, no, not now. So my husband asked to speak to Anna's husband. He said, if you don't leave this house by 7:00 p.m., then I'll pay for a rental home where he can rest his final days. It's not okay for this man to work all his life and he can't even die peacefully in his own home. I'll be calling back to make sure you've left. They tried to talk back and downplay everything. But my husband really put his foot down and ultimately they left. After about 2 days, my father had to go back to the hospital and died. My mother's still upset with me and my husband that he kicked Anna and her family out. She still comments to my husband and acts like we were really out of line and rude. I want to add that Anna was and still is building a new home near my parents' house. So they have some money. Am I the idiot for letting my husband kick my sister's family out of my parents' house? Edit. I just want to add, since there's a little confusion, that this was our last resort since it's pretty big. But my mom didn't want to speak to us at all and always sides with Anna. She was babysitting the kids and ignored my father. So he was pretty much by himself after coming out of the ICU. But my dad was so weak and was mentally done. When my husband inquired about Anna's husband, he said, "Don't worry, it'll all work itself out." You are the idiot. It was not your husband's place to dictate what happens in other people's homes. You crossed the line. And how do you know that the stress of your sister and the children moving out didn't hurt your father in his dying moments? Why would he want the end of his life filled with family strife? Your inappropriate actions may have caused him more hurt. You fools. Not only that, you hurt the living people who were the ones that were there with him in his dying hours. You caused more stress for your mom, siblings, and nieces and nephews than necessary. Wow, how selfish of you. Imagine not being able to cook your own meals after a lifetime of cooking, not being able to drive a car, sign your name, write or wash your body, or convey your thoughts clearly. Your one strong body is a shell of itself. You have trouble walking or picking things up. Now imagine how exhausting that must feel, day in and day out. Then add 8 noisy young children and an unsupportive wife to that scenario, when you're just trying to survive. You and your husband are not the idiot. At least you tried to give your father some peace in his final days. Sorry for your loss. Agreed, your husband did the right thing. I've dealt with serious health issues, and I can't imagine having a bunch of kids around. When you're suffering, all you want is to be left alone in peace. Your mom probably needed their presence to distract her. That's my guess. Regardless, all you can do now is to say, "Yes, Mom, we know. You've told us multiple times." And change the. My name is Sarah, a divorced woman in my late 20s. I'm going to share a story that happened about a year ago, about my ex-husband's unbelievable betrayal and the astonishing events that followed. I was with John, my ex-husband, since our college days. After graduating and securing jobs, we got married 2 years later. John, who had a sales job at a cosmetics manufacturing company, used to say, "Appearance is everything in sales." And so he put even more effort into maintaining his looks than he did in college. Around the time we got married, his company started doing quite well, so John started investing more in his outfits. He was so particular about his hair that he went to the salon twice a month, just to keep it perfect. I mean, you can't have a sales rep for a cosmetics company looking shabby. So I had to hold back my feelings whenever I thought, isn't he going a bit overboard? Especially when comparing his situation to mine. As for me, I quit my job to become a homemaker after we got married. After about a year, I started thinking about having kids. But John would always respond with, "We don't have enough money. It's just not possible right now." And was reluctant to agree. So, I reluctantly started working part-time to convince him. I juggled 2 jobs, worked 5 days a week at both a gas station and a grocery store. It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally, to the point where I felt I might be busier than John himself. I couldn't even go to a hair salon often. Yet, what kept me going was John's kindness that he expressed occasionally. Once every 3 months or so, there were days when he would make a reservation for the both of us at the hair salon. We spent the whole day together just being out on a date. We would get our hair done in the morning and then go shopping or watch movies. Although there were things I wished John did better, the time spent together on our dates made up for it. Those dates helped ease out our tension and maintain our healthy relationship. However, 2 years after getting married, Megan, a friend from our college days who lived nearby, told me this. Sarah, did you know there's a rumor going around that John's cheating on you with another woman? Of course, I, who had no way of knowing such a thing, was shocked. Unlike me, Megan was already a mother of 2. She was enjoying her daily meetups with other moms in the park. Among the gossip there, it seemed there was one about John going into a hotel with a young woman every Friday. Sure enough, John was usually late coming home on Fridays, but that was because he had to tally the week's sales results for the weekend. At that time, I completely believed his story. Thinking it must be some mistake, I tried to tell Megan, but she countered. I saw it once too. Megan grabbed my shoulder and persuaded me in a strong tone. Something's fishy for sure. You have to talk to him about this. That day, I told John about the gossip. Really because Megan pushed me to talk to him, but also because I wanted to be reassured and tell others that it wasn't true. I thought that if I confirmed this with John and he denied it, I could feel at ease. As expected, John refuted my story, saying it was just a rumor. There was a female employee who came from out of state for a meeting. It seemed she would be late returning home, so I took her to the hotel she stayed at. Don't take strange rumors seriously. He snapped back and denied the rumor. I didn't think he would be this upset for being doubted, so I didn't know how to respond for a second. Then I felt very bad for doubting my husband when he did nothing wrong. I deeply regretted accusing my husband of cheating even for a bit. However, right after that, I witnessed my husband entering a hotel with a woman. The 2 of them, arm in arm, looked like nothing but lovers. John was wearing the suit he had worn to work that day, and the woman was in a hoodie. It didn't look like something you'd wear to a company-wide meeting. I remembered that they were seen going to the hotel every Friday, so I started to stake out around the hotel in the evenings every Friday, and sure enough, every week, John appeared with this woman. John always had his sunglasses on, and the woman had her hood deep over her eyes, seemingly trying not to be noticed. But it was the figure of my husband whom I saw every day. He wasn't under much disguise, so it was clear that it was my husband. I knew I needed proof, so I took pictures with my phone. I had to do something, so I took the initiative to contact my in-laws and explain the situation. However, the 2 of them, who have always been sweet on John, their youngest child, brushed off my story as if it were just a rumor. What a nice guy escorting a girl who's on a business trip safely to her hotel. Seeing my father-in-law start to praise John, I showed him the picture of John with this woman. Please, you two, look at this. The 2 of them seemed a bit flustered when they saw the pictures, but they quickly composed themselves. A young man with a young woman? It's normal for others to take it that way. The mother-in-law laughed, and the father-in-law nodded in agreement. The fact that it's every week is strange, and no matter how many times I look at the woman's outfit, it doesn't look like she just left the office. Their reaction got on my nerves, so to prove my husband's infidelity, I decided to get some more solid proof. I knew John was careless. He often leaves his phone on the desk with all of his notifications on. Everything pops up on his screen, both the messages and its senders. I'd never thought about going through his notifications until now, but of course it was different this time. I took a peek at his phone that was left on his desk as usual. Looking forward to our beach trip on Friday night? I was both shocked and dumbfounded. I couldn't believe they were brazen enough to chat about such a thing through texts. I felt like they were treating me like I was stupid, which only intensified my anger. That very night, John told me that he had to go on a trip starting Friday night for his company's gathering. He said it so casually, but I knew it was just a facade. It was amusing to see him trying to hide something so obvious, and I felt a sense of superiority. When I asked where he was going, he responded with the name of a beach resort by the mountains. It seems he's staying at a hotel, which we've been to together before. When I called the hotel, they indeed had a reservation under John's name for Friday night. That Friday, I decided to bring my in-laws to the said hotel. Charles, my nephew-in-law, a vocational school student living with my in-laws, also wanted to come. He must have heard from my in-laws. Charles is the only son of John's eldest brother. He lost his parents in a car accident when he was in elementary school, and has since been raised by my in-laws, perhaps due to their close age. Charles was particularly fond of John among many uncles and aunts. Following John's lead, he even started to become interested in fashion and has been saying he wants to be a hairstylist. John seemed to be very happy that Charles liked him. The two of them were more like brothers than uncle and nephew. They called each other by all sorts of nicknames, too. He must have found it hard to believe the unfaithfulness of his beloved young uncle, just like me, a little while ago. He must have wanted concrete proof that things were not what they seemed. The thought of this hurt my heart, but in the end, he couldn't come because he had school. Fateful Friday. I arrived at the hotel a little earlier than the time John and the women's check-in time and waited for them with my skeptical in-laws. "He's probably not coming," my father-in-law murmured, relieved when they didn't show up after waiting for a while. However, just as my father-in-law sighed and started to get up from his seat, they arrived. A man in a suit and incongruous sunglasses and a woman whose face was half hidden by the hood of her hoodie arrived. As soon as the two walked through the entrance of the hotel, they kissed without waiting for the automatic door behind them to close. At that moment, the woman's hood fell down, revealing her hidden face. I was stunned by the beauty that had come into clear view. She had cute acorn-like eyes, a small nose pointed up, beautifully upturned lips, and her inner hair beautifully dyed bright red, which was familiar. She was a hairstylist at the hair salon my husband frequented. I had had her shampoo and blow-dry my hair several times. I remember talking to her across the mirror, saying, "I'm going on a date with my husband after this." I was completely taken aback. I had been unknowingly going to the salon where the woman my husband was cheating with worked, excited about my post-haircut date with him. Did she think I was a dumb old woman, oblivious to my husband's infidelity while she dried my hair? Thinking this, my anger began to boil. I wanted to strike down both John and the woman. I looked at my in-laws. "You both understand now, right? John is undoubtedly having an affair." They made faces as if they had bitten into sand and apologized. "Never mind that. Could you please cooperate with me?" Later at dinner, my in-laws and I sat next to John and the woman. My plan to get back at them was quite simple. We would appear in front of them and confront them in a situation where they couldn't make excuses. I thought that if it became known that he had been unfaithful not only to me, but also to his parents, even John would learn his lesson. "Good day." As I greeted him, John turning to me widened his eyes so much that the outlines of his pupils were discernible. His lover asked, "What? Who are they?" But John's half-open mouth just flapped without any words coming out. Anger surged to me again towards his mistress, who didn't even recognize me. I retorted in a sharp tone, more like, "Who are you? A colleague from work?" For the first time, his mistress reacted and was taken aback. Seems like she finally recognized me. She tried to get help from John by making eye contact, but John was stunned too. I blurted out, "So it's true that you go to a hotel with some woman? How could you be so bold and lie to me? You were actually cheating on me, and yet you got mad at me for doubting you. As soon as you guys entered here, you two were kissing. We saw it clearly." At this point, anger flared in John's eyes. He glared at me and said in a low voice, "Cheating? What do you mean?" And raised his voice, "So you're telling me it's all my fault? Shut up. You were so busy with your part-time job or whatever, and never bothered to dress well for yourself. You always look so shabby, and I can't be going out with someone like you." Spurred by my husband's counterattack, his lover suddenly became more energetic. "By the way, are you his wife? I couldn't even tell at first glance because you look so shabby. Gosh, I even gave you a wonderful haircut at my place. How dare you talk to her like that? Finally, my father-in-law raised his voice. John, shut this girl up right now. And John, how dare you talk to your own wife like that? Shut up. That's how you make me the bad guy. Well, that's to be expected. Unlike my older brother and sister, I'm never good enough. You always made me take on extra classes because I was never talented. John, that's not right. Shut up, old hag. John raised his voice again. But my mother-in-law was right. My mother-in-law had always told me, John's older brother and sister struggled in school, so we made John attend extra classes and tutoring, so he wouldn't have to struggle like his siblings. We did everything we could to make sure John didn't fall behind in school. He was showered with love, yet his view was skewed. After that, John continued to insult me and his parents who tried to confront John, loudly calling them old man and old hag. All of you, you don't understand me and always put me down. That's why I couldn't stand it and went for a girl who understands me. What's wrong with that? Suddenly, John's phone rang. It was a call from someone. At first, John ignored it, but annoyed by the relentless ringing, he took out his phone to check it. Immediately, I could see the blood draining from John's face. Wondering what was wrong, I peeped at the screen to see a text. And just by looking at the text, I could tell his fury was flooding in like a demon. How dare you? Because of you, our reputation is ruined. What are you doing and where are you? Come to my office right now. For some reason, John's boss was furious. I had no idea what was going on. John's phone went off again. This time, it seemed to be a call. And John answered in a flustered manner. Charles, it's not what you think it is. I can explain. He got a call from Charles. From the moment I confronted John, I had called Charles to let him hear everything that went down. Charles requested for me to do so. Charles's voice was loud enough for us to hear. No, I know just exactly what you did. I heard everything. I can't forgive you for all the rude things you said to your wife and berating my grandpa and grandma. How dare you? Also, Ashley will get a call soon too. At Charles's words, John's mistress shuddered. Huh? How does Charles know John's mistress? She's getting a call? From whom? I wondered, but I soon learned why. I'm currently interning at a hair salon for school, and the owner of the salon's right here with me. He's been listening to everything. He said he's even contacted your boss, John. Yes, that's right. Charles is aspiring to be a hairstylist and attends a cosmetology school. The salon where he is interning turned out to be the one John frequents. In retrospect, I just remembered that Charles was the one who introduced the place to John. But why would his manager call John's boss? In the middle of the call with Charles, John's phone went off again. John hurriedly looked at his phone, which he held up to his ear. The call was from his boss. The same one from earlier. I'm so sorry. The first thing that John said when he put the phone back to his ear was a strained apology. However, the voice on the other end was just as furious as earlier. No apology will make up for this, you having an affair with a worker from a hair salon run by our CEO's older brother. I let you be in charge to handle business with that store, since your nephew happened to be interning there. But how dare you make a fool out of us? Our CEO's older brother said he will no longer buy our cosmetics or our shampoo products ever again. He said he'll spread the word to the people and industry too. I was even more flabbergasted. Who would have thought that the hair salon was a business partner of John's company, and its manager was the CEO's brother? But the most shocking revelation of the day was yet to come. That girl, she's engaged to the son of the CEO's older brother, right? Did you lay a hand on her knowing that? I was dumbfounded. The woman had been cheating with John, even though she was engaged to the son of her manager. To summarize, John had an affair with a girl that worked at the hair salon that Charles had introduced him. The place happened to be owned by the older brother of John's company's CEO. The hair salon was actually an important client for John. And even worse, the girl he cheated with was engaged to her manager's son. It was clear that this would cause trouble in many ways if people found out. The audacity of these people. John's mistress also got a call. "Ashley, do you think it's okay to have an affair with your client? You're even engaged to my son." What did you say to his wife? "You're fired right here and now. Also, we're done dealing with that company's shampoo and cosmetics. Don't you and your man ever come here again." The frantic behavior of John and Ashley after that was something to behold. Both of them made numerous excuses and apologized over and over again on the phone, but it seemed to no avail. In the end, John turned beet red and Ashley left the hotel sobbing. I heard later that Charles, when he heard about John's affair, immediately suspected it was Ashley. So he consulted with the salon manager, and they both kept an eye on the situation here. After that, I divorced John. At first, he said, "I don't need you anyway." But after Ashley told him she had been fired because of him, he turned around and started pleading with me. "Don't divorce me. You're all I have," he said. But I cut him off without a second thought. And now, I've become a full-time employee at the grocery store where I worked part-time, and I'm studying to become the manager here. I owe it all to my years of dedication as a part-time worker. I don't need to rely on John's income anymore. By the way, I hear that John's sales performance has deteriorated rapidly since he lost the deal with that beauty salon. The rumors spread at his workplace, so I'm sure it affected John. According to Charles, John quit the company voluntarily. He was either encouraged to resign or felt uncomfortable staying at his workplace. After graduating from his cosmetology school, Charles got a job at that hair salon. Now, I am his regular customer. Although, he being a novice hairstylist cannot yet handle real customers, so he practices on me by cutting my hair. It's practice, so it's free, Charles says, but I feel bad about that, so I pay at least half the actual price. To be honest, Charles occasionally asks me out on dates, but I want to prioritize my work and my own time for now, so I've politely turned. I'm a 46-year-old male, and my brother's 48. When I was 20, my then-girlfriend cheated on me with my brother. I was heartbroken and angry. I told him that he was no longer my brother. Despite my request, my family didn't cut him off. So I told them that I would never again be in the same place as he was. If they wish to invite both, they should invite him, as I'm the one giving the ultimatum. My daughter's getting married in the spring of next year. In our culture, both parents pay for the wedding 50-50. Unexpectedly, my daughter sat me down and told me she would invite my brother and his family. He married my cheating ex. Apparently, she had been seeing them for the last 4 years and had built a relationship behind my back. She even wants her cousin to be a flower girl. I was angry. I told her what my boundaries are. And if my brother's invited, then I will not pay for any part of the wedding. She became angry and told me it's time to let go of the past. I told her it was not her call to make. We argued some more, and she told me I was making her wedding about myself. I told her I would probably not attend, so it would be all about her. She left crying. My ex-wife called me screaming and told me I was a huge idiot. And our daughter was crushed. Then my parents called, and the same thing happened. I told them off, and now I'm ignoring their calls. My girlfriend told me to reconsider and apologize. I will break my relationship with my daughter by not paying and attending. I don't know. I think my boundaries should be respected. Am I the idiot for that? Not the idiot. This is one of those stories where your daughter's decided that she's willing to alienate you for someone that betrayed your trust. It doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago. It only matters that it happened, which means she betrayed your trust. If she wants him there so badly, he can pay the half due. The people around you need a reality check. Ask your daughter if her fiancé cheated on her with her sister tomorrow, moved on with the affair partner, and decided to stay close to him, how she'd feel. It's so easy for everyone to judge you when they're not in your shoes. And in terms of the money, tradition or not, it's yours, and you can do with it as you please. I still wouldn't pay since there's so much secrecy. I bet you'll pay, and your brother will show up regardless. He supports his daughter his whole life and makes it clear his brother's no longer welcome in his life. His daughter betrays his trust and springs this on him while also expecting him to be a checkbook for her wedding. She's a grown woman. She can learn the consequences. It was probably the brother making sure OP's daughter liked him to get another one in on OP. I do not like the brother. Here's a very unpopular opinion. I don't understand why your daughter decided to connect with someone who betrayed their father. How much drama would it have been to let sleeping dogs lie? I know many people won't agree with me, but if this causes an irreparable rift between you and your daughter, being right won't give you much comfort. While I'm fully supporting you standing your ground, just remember if you stand here, you will miss out on her potential kids, birthday parties, and other family events because your family will truly cut you off. If you're okay with that, then so be it. It's been 26 years, longer than OP's daughter has even been alive. I understand being annoyed that his brother's invited, not wanting to talk or take pictures with him, etc., but giving up your relationship with your daughter is cutting off your nose to spite your face. Here's my question, OP. Your brother stole your girlfriend. Do you want him to steal your daughter too? Your grandchildren? If not, stop being an idiot and suck it up for one day. So I, 25 female, work in a pretty big office in a big city. The floor I work on is specifically for a branch of the company. So there are only a dozen or so people on that floor. I bring my lunch every day because I usually don't have time to get up and get food for myself. One of my favorite foods is strawberries and I always eat them. About a week ago, a woman I'll call Jane, 47, started working in the room about 7 doors down from me. A couple of days ago, I pulled out my lunch and started munching on my strawberries while trying to type an email. Jane knocks on my door and asks me what I'm doing. She says this in a very high-pitched, angry tone. So I'm taken aback and all I can murmur out is a small, "What?" before she starts yelling at me. She goes on about how I should know she's allergic and that even smelling strawberries can cause her a severe reaction. I cough on my strawberry and rush to put it back in its container. And she gets even angrier that I didn't already know. I apologize and put my food back in my lunchbox. Then I put it in my desk drawer. The next day I went to my supervisor, I'll call Derek, to talk about this situation and ask if we could maybe put a sign up at the entrance of our office floor that tells us what allergies our coworkers have. That way we can avoid mistakes that happened the day before. He looks at me confused and asks what I'm talking about. I explain what had happened the day before and he sighed and explained to me that Jane had no proven documentation about her allergy and didn't put any allergies on the employee information sheet when she was employed. I sigh with relief and ask if it's okay for me to bring my strawberries the next day. And he says it's perfectly fine. So the next day I brought my strawberries and Jane goes off on me as I open my lunch and claims I'm trying to kill her. She says this loud enough that all of my other coworkers gather around my door to see what's going on. Jane storms out and about half my coworkers tell me I'm an idiot for doing that to her and walk out with her. The other half sits there and tells me it's fine and that she did the same thing to them but with different foods. Examples: carrots, beans, avocado, etc. I'm getting a lot of angry emails calling me an idiot and I feel horrible. But some of my coworkers are saying I did nothing wrong. Am I the idiot? Your boss cleared you and stated that she didn't write them down or provide documentation. If she would die from the smell, she'd be dead already upon entering your office. Not the idiot. Enjoy your fruits. Next time she comes in, tell her to take it up with the supervisor or NHR. You inquired and were cleared to eat them at the office. She smells strawberries from 7 doors down and then proceeds to walk closer to the smell that could kill her to tell you the smell could kill her. She's a moron, but it seems like she's lying based on all the other food weirdness. If she's done this to other coworkers about other foods, I'm willing to bet she either just doesn't like the smell or she likes the drama and attention. There's no allergy involved. Anytime you need an accommodation at work for your health, you must provide documentation. Ask your supervisor if they can send out an email to everyone saying that any allergies must be registered with the workplace if accommodations are needed. Hopefully that'll stop the emails and hate. Also let them know that this person shouted at you again for just eating your lunch. My husband, 35, and I've 32, are friends with 2 other couples and we've been taking group vacations for a few years now. We're all teachers except for my husband who's a welder. So we don't take every single vacation together or anything like that. But for 1 week every summer, we go somewhere as a group. It is a great way for us to reconnect and decompress. I've always left my kids with my parents and the other couples have arranged their own childcare. We got together this last weekend to decide what we were going to do for next summer. We decided that we were going to Florida. Believe it or not, it is cheaper and less crowded in the summer and all of us can deal with the heat. But one of the couples wants to bring their twin child. She loves seashells and has heard all about this place. Okay, not ideal, but we decided it would be fine. Here's the problem. We always split the cost of the rental evenly. It's fair. 3 couples, each of us pays a third. So we found a rental with 1 room with 2 queen beds so that we'll still only need 3 rooms. Not acceptable. On their vacation, they want a long time. Okay, we'll find a rental with 4 bedrooms, but it's more expensive. So they'll have to pay more since they get 2 bedrooms. Hugh shocked Pikachu's face. But we always split the rental 3 ways. Well, yeah, because 3 isn't 4. Before anyone says anything, we didn't tell them that they had to pay 50% since they got 2 bedrooms. That isn't what we said. We just expected them to pay the difference between a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom rental. Now they're upset with us for burdening them financially because they want to give their daughter an experience. My husband and I don't think we should subsidize them. However, the third couple thinks we should split the bill this one time to keep the peace. Am I the idiot? Now they're upset with us for burdening them financially because they want to give their daughter an experience. I'm sorry, what? If they want to give their daughter an experience, they need to pay. Ask them if they're willing to pay for your kids' trip somewhere because you want to give your kids an experience. Not the idiot. The third couple thinks we should split the bill this time to keep the peace. Nope. Never set a precedent. They'll expect you to adhere to it every time. Stick to your guns. They can stick with 1 room if they want to split it evenly. In fact, please show them the responses. They have a lot of gall to think everyone should subsidize their extra room. But something else I'd be far more worried about. They explicitly said they want a long time and it's their vacation. But when you bring a single child on vacation with adults, that child needs to be entertained. There are no other children around. Who's expected to do that while the parents want alone time? Is this also something they expect to share equally? Prepare yourself for a vacation that is anything but child-free. While you dropped off your children to have time for yourself, you'll be watching another couple's child instead. Before I start, I'd like to say I'm a big girl. No shame in that. I love myself just the way I am. And I've been living by the motto, be you, everybody else is taken. Mother-in-law, dear husband's mom, always commented about my weight. Since I got pregnant, she started making more comments while low-key shaming me for what I eat. Whenever I visited, she'd give me a smaller plate, portion, cup, even spoons. She always buys me small-size clothes even though I'm in my 2nd trimester and those clothes don't fit. My sister-in-law decided to throw me a baby shower after my husband denied it when my sister offered to throw me one. The whole side of my in-laws' family is invited. However, my mom refused to come after my husband's words to my sister, another story for later. I got there and mother-in-law was in charge of serving food to the guest. All that was served were cakes and juice. I got hungry from talking and I get up to eat some cake. The second I put my hands on the cake, mother-in-law grabbed my arm and said I'd gained enough weight already and that if I quote, keep this up, her son would not be happy living with a large walrus. I was shocked. I didn't know how to react, especially since she said this out loud. She looked at me in a sorry, not sorry kind of way. I put the cake down and grabbed my stuff and started walking. Her daughter stopped me saying that I can't leave mid-party and embarrass her like that. I told her to tell her mom to leave if she wanted me to stay, but she went off and said, "Are you crazy? She's my mom. You want me to kick her out in front of everybody?" So I turned around and kept walking. I called mom to come pick me up and went home. Dear husband came home looking furious. He asked me to explain what I did at the baby shower and why. I mentioned what his mom did and he started ranting about how I messed this up over something so minor. I told him it wasn't minor, in my opinion, since she literally cut me off food and didn't let me eat when I was hungry. He said that his mom meant well and that I needed to get rid of this easily offended mindset immediately before I passed it down to our son. He said that cakes are not essential foods and that this was not a good enough reason to walk out of the baby shower that his mom and sister put a ton of money, time and effort into. He said I had hours to call and fix things, but I refused. I went to stay with my mom because he wouldn't stop pressuring me to call and apologize for what happened. He kept talking about how angry and let down his mom and sister felt and called me ungrateful and spiteful for doing what I did. Am I overreacting here? Edit, my sister is infertile and has been for years. My husband claimed that she's become obsessed with the baby simply because she bought me stuff for the baby as gifts and wanted to throw me a baby shower. My sister is a great person and I have no doubt that she only did all that just because of how great she is and will be as an aunt. My husband kept insisting there was something wrong with her, which led to a fight between them and he called her a possessive witch. My mom kicked him out and my sister cut contact with him. The issue got worse with my brother-in-law, her husband, arguing with my husband, not the idiot. So your own sister wasn't allowed to throw you a baby shower, which then caused your mom not to attend. Instead, your husband allows his sister to throw one where your mother-in-law bullied you. Are he and his family trying to control you, isolate you from your family? OP needs to be careful because that's exactly how it sounds. Please take cautions, OP. Your situation with these people sounds extremely toxic and dangerous. Don't let your dear husband manipulate you into isolation from your family because that's exactly what he's attempting to do. This is not a man you want to raise a child with. Agree. Any man that would allow his mother to verbally abuse and deny his wife food and then gaslight and berate his wife for standing up for herself is a massively abusive idiot. This is divorce territory now. Stay somewhere safe. Better yet, make him leave the house while divorce proceedings happen. If I were you, I would get the heck out. You have excellent self-love. Don't let them take that away from you and protect your child from those people. Heaven forbid he gets a little chubby as he grows up because then he'll be made to feel like he's less too. But he won't have built up the thick skin it takes to deal with them as you have. And what it does to him could be much worse. I grew up being called fat by my mother and developed a disorder that I still struggle with today. I'm nearly adult female, would rather live with my dad. But for school reasons, it's just a lot more convenient for everyone for me to live with my mom during the week. So mostly, I'm here to humor my dad. My mom did some stuff during the divorce that I think was crappy. So I don't really like her very much now, but I've been trying to just keep things civil until I graduate. She married a guy with 2 kids, tween male, younger tween female, at lightning speed after the divorce. And the whole merging families thing isn't going well. His kids hate her. I feel somewhat neutral about him and want to be left alone. And the step-siblings and I are okay, but mostly they do their own thing and I do mine. And it's not the happy blended family my mom wanted. And she keeps trying to force it and making it worse. Her husband goes along with her. So basically nobody is happy in that house. I kinda exploded the hornet's nest this last weekend because I lost my cool about something my mom has been pushing for a while about the step family. She insists on calling my stepdad, my dad, and the kids, my siblings, and gets frustrated that I won't call them that. They're not, I have a dad and I didn't grow up with these kids. I'm not gonna pretend. I finally got tired of it. So when we ran into some of my mom's and stepdad's friends last weekend and he introduced me as his daughter, I said, "I'm not your daughter." My mom tried to laugh it off, but the friends looked uncomfortable. And she got mad at me in the car and told me I needed to get with the program and stop being the jerk about this. I told her that he wasn't my dad. The kids aren't my siblings. And if she didn't get with my program, she could choose not to be my mom the minute I turned 18. Big argument. They tried to take my car keys as punishment. And when I told my dad, since the car was in his name, he called and said that they give him or me the keys immediately, or he'd get the police involved. So my mom has been crying and saying I'm an idiot. Stepdad agrees. My stepbrother said he thought it was the best and I'm right. My grandparents came over and tried to talk me into apologizing and going along with things. My dad says they pushed me too much and got what they earned, but I probably should have just left it alone in the car. I don't think it was wrong, but I don't know if I was an idiot. Not the idiot. You're already trying to be civil with the stepdad and step-siblings. You have a dad involved in your life. And it seems you've clearly expressed that you're uncomfortable calling them dad or your siblings. So they shouldn't be forcing you to call them that or introducing you that way. A selfish woman breaks up her family and tries to make a new one and then acts surprised when not everyone she betrayed is playing along. Too bad. Your mom could have acted less like a selfish, impulsive nitwit and none of you would be in this situation. Plus, one of the step-sibs agreed. The one is old enough to see for sure what's happening. You can't force a blend. It must happen on its own. Is your dad dating or married? Ask your mom if she wants you to replace her with the next person he gets involved with because he wants to make a happy blended family. Is she really okay hearing you call someone else mom because your dad likes sleeping with her? Mom is being a selfish idiot as his stepdad for going along with